Hello, everybody, and welcome to Yoga During the Lockdown. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Milan, and I'll be leading you through today's session. As far as housekeeping goes, I can't see you, so if you've got any sort of injuries or underlying conditions that might make some positions very risky to you or a bit more difficult, just make sure to look after yourself and either modify the posture so that it works for you, or if you like, at any point throughout this session, this goes for anybody, not just the injured folks, is just go into the child's pose, just any variation of the child's pose that you prefer, and just return to that meditative breathing so you can practice the mental aspect of the practice a bit more. As for today's practice, it is going to be a bit more of a physically demanding one. As we're spending so much time indoors, I thought it'd be good just to focus a bit more on strengthening the body, so we can be doing some core, some legs, and with any sort of downward facing dog stuff, we'll be working the shoulders as well. And I think that's about it. Without further ado, get into your comfortable position for the meditation at the start of the class. So we're first going to slow down, bring the body to rest, to allow us to enter into a meditative state. So I'm going to do about 5 rounds of conscious deep breathing. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. So it's really important that you really give that sigh, that conscious relaxation on the exhale. And we're going to do that about 5 more times, trying to slow down with each repetition, deepening that tiny bit more, really trying to increase the gaps between the inhale and the exhale. You'll notice that as you sigh like that, your shoulders will just drift down, relaxing that tiny bit more. Just a couple more rounds left. And returning back to your normal nasal breathing. Not making any effort now to be any deeper or slower. Just allowing your body to find its own steady rhythm. And as always, for this beginning part, we're going to try to shrink down our space, our sphere of influence, down into this practice space. So you can keep your eyes open if you wish, or you can have them closed for now. And we're going to allow our vision just become blurry, just to dissolve into the blobs of light and dark, specks of color. And you're going to shrink down your awareness towards this visual field, or with your eyes closed, to all of the sounds around you. Just taking in what is. Letting go of everything outside of this space. By starting today's practice, you've set aside this hour simply to exist without expectations, criteria of pass or fail, or any notions of any roles that you may have to undertake throughout the day. You're just taking this time just to be, even if you're not the most flexible or the strongest practitioner. You can still simply exist. This doesn't mean emptying your mind of thought or being super disciplined, just being aware of the present moment, whether that be through the breath or some other object of meditation. Anyway, where were we? Just taking in the soundscape of what's around you, arriving in the present moment. And we're not really judging anything that we observe or hear. We're just allowing it to exist, to fade in and out of our conscious experience as they go. And now you can close your eyes if you had them open. We're going to turn our focus even more inwards. We're starting with a little body scan now, starting at the crown of your head. So if you like, you can just tap the top of your head here, give it a little rub, because often it really helps to have like a physical anchoring point for you to start this meditation, to get an entranceway into your own body, so to speak. And slowly but surely, we're just going to let our awareness trickle down from the top of our head. Moving down through the face, the ears, and the neck. Through the shoulders and down the arms. Really just taking your time, exploring whatever it is you come across. Once again, trying to enter into this state of judgment-free experience. Just observing your mindscape or your conscious experience simply as it is. And if any sounds or thoughts should try to make their way into your attention, that's fine. Just give them the same attention that you would your body. This dispassionate appraisal, trying to figure out the nature of this stimulus. And you'll find that your thoughts, just like the sounds, will eventually just fade away on their own accord. And when you're ready, you can just return back to this scan of the body, traveling down now through the hips and along the legs. And as you make your way along all of the legs, bringing your attention to any point of contact between you and the mat. Through these points of contact, you can just experience the influence of gravity pulling you down into the mat. Really focusing on experiencing this grounding energy, this sensation of being pulled into the floor. And as we have done in these past few meditations, with the inhale, we're going to try to pull this sensation up into the body, settling every single cell that it comes into contact with. Relaxing on the exhale. And slowly building up these foundations of groundedness, relaxation. Just backtracking through the body and grounding everything that you become aware of. If all of the cells in your body were sort of arrows pointing in different directions, as this grounding energy is pulled up through the body, I want you to imagine that all of the arrows in your body are now just pointing down in this uniform, sort of grounded pattern. All in line with the pull of gravity. Making our way up to the shoulders, along the neck. And in your own time, you'll eventually make your way to the crown of the head. Your body is now fully grounded, relaxed, settled, and ready to focus on the breath. So for the meat of today's meditation, it's going to be fairly unguided. It might be a little bit harder, more distraction prone. That's fine. You're simply just going to observe the breath. It's the only thing to it. There's no end goal, standard. Just simply giving your mind something to do in the form of the breath. Bringing our attention even further inward, into the body, into the breath. So we're not really altering the breath in any way. We're simply experiencing its own pattern at rest. And if you like, you can try to count your way up to 10 here, if that helps you at all, or attach some sort of other conscious marker to the breath, whether it be in and out, up or down. It's really just up to you how you choose to enter into this meditation. Just allowing the sounds and the thoughts of the external world to wash over you, fade into the background, as if you're a strong and stable rock facing the waves on the coast. Allowing your whole conscious experience to be absorbed by the breath. Becoming increasingly aware of the rise and fall of the chest, the gentle stretch of the intercostal muscles between the ribs. The cool flow of air in through the nose. And should any thoughts overwhelm your conscious mind, just observe them as you would the breath, assessing whether they're heavy or light, where they go, where they come from. And once they too fade away, just returning back to the breath, just restarting the count. or just restarting your awareness. And as I always like to say, just this act of refocusing, even though you may feel a bit bummed that you've lost this focus, it's just as important as the focus itself. You're strengthening this mental muscle that you use to enter into this meditative state of awareness of the present moment and your own mind. And as you allow your awareness to slowly re-emerge into the room, you can take this twilight between the meditation and the physical practice just to hone in on your intention for today's practice, whether it be simply focusing more on the breath, being more present, or making fewer excuses for yourself and to the people around you, or just being more aware of the things that you like about yourself, giving yourself more positive reinforcement than you normally might be, just to help you get through the days. And now you've found your intention for today's practice. We're going to be starting in a cross-legged position at the front of our mats. You can rest your hands on your knees. We're going to begin with a few seated cat-cows. So as you inhale, really expand the air into the upper body. You can rock forward on the hips. Really stretching out the throat, looking up to the ceiling. Exhale, squeeze that belly button into your spine. Stretch out the shoulder blades and rock back on the hips. I'm just going to do that in time with our own breath. And this should really help loosen up the front and the back of the body. And really try to exaggerate the movement with each repetition. Going even further forward and up, even further back and in, squeezing even harder with each exhale. Really warming up the core and the spine. back at the center in your easy posture. Alright, so from here, I'm going to lie back on our mats and prepare for a little bit of core work now. Let me see if I've got the space. Alrighty, so we're going to start just with a few simple leg raises, trying to really connect the movement with the breath. We're going to place our lower back into the mat here, making sure to keep it grounded throughout the practice. You can either have your hands by your side or by your head, just depending on your preference and level of experience. And also, if anybody doesn't really have a strong core and can't really do the strict ones, or they just prefer to focus on the breath rather than exerting themselves too much in the practice, you can simply start by lifting your knees up and extending your legs like that on the exhale to make that a little bit easier for yourself. And without further ado, we're going to take a deep breath to prepare, ground that lower back, and whichever version you prefer, exhale and squeeze up. Inhale, opening up the body, allowing it to come down. We're going to do that in time with our own breath. Exhale, squeeze and up. Inhale, expand and lower. And if you like, you can just switch to the easier version if you wish. It's really up to you how much you want to put into the practice. The really important bit here is simply connecting your mind and your body through the breath. Let's do it for 3 more rounds. 2. And 3. Really trying to slow down that descent, making the most out of the movement. Alright, we're just going to take a little rest breath here. And while you do that, I'm just going to quickly demonstrate what we're going to do next. So what we're going to do is a sort of called a reclined crow posture. It's sort of like a yoga reverse crunch. So on the inhale, we'll have our arms stretched out, our legs stretched out. And on the exhale, we're going to bring it all in. Bring our elbows in towards the inside of our knees. Squeeze the knees together. Squeeze everything in, reaching up. Inhale, open up. Exhale, squeeze in. So you can have our feet together here. Bring our thighs together and just really squeeze the core as well. Okay, so if you're lying on the ground, taking a deep breath in to prepare. And exhale in time with your own breath. So we're going to go for about 5 more rounds in your own time. Two more. And relax. But not for too long. It's a deep breath in. Bring your knees in towards your chest. Give them a hug for the wind releasing pose. So we can go underneath the knee here and just use the weight of our legs to maneuver ourselves up and down, giving ourselves a nice little massage along the back until we eventually rock ourselves into a cross-legged position at the front of the mat And from there, we're going to transition into all fours. And if you thought that your core was going to get a rest, I'm afraid you're quite wrong. So while you're on all fours, I'm just going to quickly run through the variations that you can go through as we go into this sort of plank sequence. So if your wrists aren't feeling too good, for all of the different variations we're going to do, you can simply rest your forearms on the ground and use that as your base, doing sort of like a dolphin variation of the sequence. So essentially we're going to do a regular plank, and then you can, if you're balance impaired, you can place one leg down as a supporting leg as we then go into variations of the side plank. For the more advanced people among you, you can take that lower leg up and just stack on top of each other. If you want to take it even further and connect the breath, exhale and inhale. Anyway, everybody on all fours, preparing your favorite variation of the plank. So you can either start off with your forearms on the ground or with hands on the ground. Just checking our alignment here, making sure that our hands are below our shoulders, our knees below our hips. And lift off. I'm going to stay here for a little bit, trying to lower our bums so that there's a nice straight line between the heels and the shoulders. And we're going to start off with a left side plank. So we're going to shift our left hand a little bit closer to the center. And you can either lower that left leg, or you can just stack everything on top of each other and reach up with the right. So exhale down and through. Inhale up. So about 3 more breaths. One. 2. And 3. Coming back to the center. And when you're ready, just swapping over to the other side, either dropping that right leg this time or stacking on top. Inhale up, exhale in, or just holding, whichever you prefer. And we've got about 3 more breaths left. 1. 2. And 3. Coming back to the center. I'm just going to hold it a little bit longer. And when you've got this, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you can drop your knees now. So we're going to go into your preferred version of the child's pose. So we're going to bring our heels together to start off with. You can either have your knees wide, or you can have them together. We're just going to sit back on our heels, stretch our hands up, and try to bring our heart towards the mat. So we're going to spend about 5 breaths just resting, gathering our strength for the next sequence. Just taking these moments of stillness in between movement to really hone in on the breath, becoming more aware of its impact on the body and the mind. And shifting forward into our tabletop once more, just checking that our hands and knees are in the right place. This might be a little bit hard on the upper body, so if throughout this sequence you want to return to the child's pose, that's quite fine. So deep breath in, point your toes to the ground, exhale, pushing through the hands into your downward facing dog. Stay here for a little bit, and while you're in your downward facing dog, I'm just going to quickly talk you through what we're going to do. So basically, we're going to come forward and bring our knee towards our elbow or our tricep. We're going to do that about 10 times on one side and hold for a little bit, then come back. So with the breath. So inhale forward, exhale back. 10 on one side, then swap over to the other side. And when we're ready, next inhale, coming forward, right knee, right elbow, exhale, downward facing dog. That's 1. And 2. 3. In time with their own breath. And stop for a little bit. Put your knees to the ground. Come up. Just shake out your arms a little bit. Take a few breaths to rest. And coming straight back into all fours. Inhale, point the toes. Exhale, shift back, downward facing dog. Inhale, left leg this time. Halfway there. One more. And drop your knees. Come back into the child's pose. Just for a couple of breaths, just to rest your arms a little bit. Always trying to bring your heart in towards the mat to open up the hips if you're doing the extended child's pose. And from here, we're going to walk our hands over to the right, trying to ground your left hip into your left foot. Really pushing that hip back to ground this stretch. Just holding it for a few rounds of breath, allowing the muscles to catch up to the stretch. And walking over to the other side, so we're preparing ourselves for a slightly more intense side stretch later in the form of the triangle pose. Right, for the other side now, grounding our right hip, pushing it back into the mat. Not thinking so much about reaching too far with the arms. We're pulling ourselves back into the mat. The hands are just a grounding point for this stretch. And coming back to the center, shifting your weight forward into your tabletop. Inhale, point your toes. Exhale, downward facing dog. You can hop or walk into your garden pose, your low squat at the front of the mat. Making sure not to make too much noise here. We're just gently landing. And some of you might hate me for this a bit, but we're going to do about 30 frogs. So you don't have to do the whole bunch. As always, if you prefer to focus on the meditative aspect of the practice, you can always return to the child's pose or your easy posture just to get back to that meditative state of mind. So the frog basically does what it says on the tin. You're going to go into a frog-like posture. So you can have your fingertips splayed out like this. You can either have your hands down or fingertips. Bringing your heels together, bouncing on your toes. This is going to be your inhale posture. You're going to bring your chin up, expand the upper body, taking deep breaths in. And for the exhale part of the posture, you're going to extend your legs, bring your head down like this. Inhale, like so, looking up. Exhale, looking down, extending the legs, squeezing the quads, but you're still staying suspended on the balls of your feet here. All right, the 30 start now. Deep breath in. 1. 2. It's really important that you connect the movement with the breath. Yeah, it does kind of suck. That was about 20 when I stopped. I hope that some of you managed to continue. Burns just in your mind. 5. And when you're done, just sitting back into your easy posture. Whew. That does have a good sting to it. But fortunately, we've not been using our core too much. We're just going to make the next posture a little bit more bearable. So as always, you can modify this posture towards your own needs, depending on how far you want to go with it. So the easiest posture is just grabbing your legs and lying back. So we're doing variations of the boat pose here. The next step up from that would just be to lift your legs up while still grabbing your legs. Next step up from that, letting go. Next step up from that, raising your legs, trying to come up like this. So we're just going to do a little bit of that. So you can have your legs in front of you. Grab them if you like. We're just preparing for whichever version of the posture you would like. Deep breath in as we prepare. And exhale, come into your preferred version of the posture. Try to make about 30 seconds. We're probably about halfway there. If you're struggling, trying to engage that ocean breath, that slightly whooshing breath, just to breathe your way through the posture. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, letting go. So be back in your easy pose, rolling over your knees into all fours. Point your toes to the ground as you prepare. Deep breath in. Exhale, coming back into your downward facing dog. You can walk or hop into your Uttanasana, your standing forward fold here. Inhale up. Exhale, Tadasana. So we should all be standing at the front of our mat. Taking a moment to find our Tadasana, so you can bring your feet together, lift your toes up, and really try to grab the mat with all four corners over your feet, really trying to grab the whole thing. Tilt your hips back a bit, shoulders back, gaze forward, Tadasana. So you're not going to be doing any sort of fancy three-legged dog transitions here, or any sort of downward facing dog. We're simply going to bring our left foot back, just about a couple of feet, making sure that our heels are in line with one another. Back foot is about 45 degrees. We're going to start in Warrior 1, so our hips are going to be square with the narrow end of the mat. Have a few practice bends of that front knee. If you can't see your toes, you might want to widen the posture just a little bit to prevent your knee here from traveling too far above that joint. Alrighty, deep breath in, reaching up and back as you come into your Warrior 1. If your shoulders allow it, you should be able to bring your hands together above your head. And when you're ready, you can twist that back foot a little bit, just to allow your hips to come back into a neutral position, back from being square, heels still in line with one another. Pretend you're sandwiched between two walls here for your Warrior 2. So you've got a nice, strong, confident upper body. You're staring down that front finger. And come back, reach up for your reversing warrior. It's going to give you a nice stretch. Inhale, Warrior 2. Couple of breaths. And extend both legs now. You can bring your back foot in a little bit closer, that helps, as we prepare for the pyramid posture. So just like with Warrior 2, you're basically going to act as if you're sandwiched between two panes of glass. So what that means is, when you're trying to reach down here for the pyramid pose, rather than trying to twist like this in order to get a little bit more depth, you're just going to stop when you start to feel that happen. Almost as if your movement's being limited between these two walls. Alright, so we've got both legs nice and straight. Back foot, so your left foot now, this can be about 90 degrees. Right foot pointed out in line with the mat. Line up the upper body with the hips. Inhale, reach out. Exhale, folding over and reaching for that right leg. But rather than focusing on reaching down with the right, you're going to try to focus on stretching up with the left. So you're really opening up the upper body here. And your gaze, your drishti, can focus on that upper hand. Inhale, come up and bring your left foot forward into your Tadasana at the front of your mat. Anyway, this time, right foot back as you prepare for your warrior one. So, heels in line with one another, back foot at about 45 degrees just to allow your hips to go square with the front of the mat here. If you practice bends, you might need to widen the posture a bit. Always making sure that the upper body is in line with the hips here throughout this posture. Inhale, up and down. Spending a couple of breaths in this posture. Maybe feeling a little bit of a burn in the legs here. Just returning to the breath. And opening up with the hips and the upper body in one movement. And coming into your warrior two. Staring down that front finger. And reaching back into your reversing warrior. Coming back into warrior two. And extending both legs. So you've still got the same sort of base here. You might need to bring your feet a little bit closer together depending on where you're at. So upper body in line with the hips. Inhale, reach out either side. Exhale, folding between these two walls. Focusing on reaching up with the right, opening up the upper body, looking up towards that right thumb here. And as soon as you feel the need, sort of like, you notice how I'm just sort of folding that tiny bit just to get a little bit more reach. You want to stop there really and slowly just build your own stretch. Mostly in here, and eventually you can get that a little bit lower without sacrificing the form. And inhale, coming out and bringing your feet to the front of the mat. So that's most of the heavy lifting of the practice out of the way, with which you can do a little bit of a balancing sequence, well, a balancing sort of stretch before moving more towards the end of the practice. So starting off in our Tadasana at the front of our mat, or wherever you can best see the screen, I guess. Shifting the weight onto our left, bending that right leg here. Okay, grab your right foot by the big toe, so like this. And we can inhale, open up and sort of lift, just depending on how your balance is, just finding that stable spot in the distance, trying to kick back with the right leg to give ourselves a bit of tension here, to try and help balance the posture overall and lift ourselves up. Hopefully we'll also get a nice little stretch over the quads here. Trying to keep our knee sort of in towards the other knee rather than letting it drift out towards the right. And gracefully returning to a standing position at the front of your mat. Coming back into Tadasana once more. Really grabbing the mat with as much of your foot as possible. Maybe shifting the weight about just to experience the distribution of your center of gravity. Bending that left knee this time, shifting the weight over to the right. Gonna come back, that left foot, grab it by the big toe here. So you can see sort of rotating your hand in and grabbing that big toe. And when you're ready, opening up into your variation of the Lord of the dance. You may find that one side is slightly more balanced than the other. And eventually finding yourself in your Tadasana at the front of your mat. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, hands to your toes. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands down. Walk or hop into your Chaturanga. Lower yourself down. Inhale, upward facing dog. Bring your knees to the ground and come into your tabletop. Inhale, right foot between your hands, and then you can rest your hands on top of that right leg as we do a little lunge just to release the hips, the upper thighs, give ourselves a good old stretch. So we're going to try to lean back here as we bring our hips in towards our right heel. That's going to prevent us from cheating and taking away some of the stretch. Using this moment of stillness just to bring our attention back towards the breath, our experience of it, grounding ourselves in the present moment. And letting go as you bring that right leg back and swapping over to the left. Inhale, coming up and squeezing down. This is especially good if you're doing a lot of indoor cycling or like rowing or doing a lot of sitting, as we build up a lot of tension in this area from this seated position. That's going to help release a lot of that. Once again, just spending a little bit longer in the posture as our muscles adjust to the strain, all the little fibers unhooking and relieving themselves of tension. And letting go. Right, so now we're going to do a slightly goofy looking pose, the lion posture. For this, we're going to go into the same way that we would for our child's pose or our extended child's pose. So we've got our heels together, our knees apart. And from there, we're going to sort of rotate our hands inward in towards the hips. We're going to inhale, exhale, doing our best Iego face. Really trying to relieve the tension here, sort of breathing out as aggressively as we possibly can. You feel a nice stretch on the forearms here. So if you aren't doing so already, adopting the lion's posture. So with our heels together, our knees out, and our hands in, giving ourselves a nice bit of wrist release as well. Deep breath in, cross our eyes, and we're going to do 3 rounds of this, so you're almost done. And that's that. You can bring your hands back to normal in your all fours, and then shift yourself into a cross-legged position at the front of the mat. We're going to do a little bit of Janu Shirshasana, or the head to knee posture, so our one-legged stretches. We're going to start with the right, tuck in our left foot to that leg. We're going to start off with our inhale, bringing our upper body in line with the hips. Exhale, twist and fold. Just allowing our hands to fall in line with one another along the leg, or trying to grab our feet here. Just settling in to a slow, steady rhythm of breathing. Taking our time, allowing the body to catch up with what we want from it. Inhale, coming out of the stretch. So we're going to tuck our left leg to the outside of that right knee. We're going to bend that right leg now, and we're ready to do a twist. Bring our right elbow to that upper knee there. Deep breath in, and as you exhale, reach back and twist. That's going to give us a nice, intense twist of all the muscles of the back, squeezing out the organs a little bit. And as always, if you can't breathe, you've gone too far. And when you're ready, coming out of the stretch, extending that left leg now, and your right leg is already tucked in there. Ground your hips, inhale up, exhale, twist and fold. So you're trying to pinch your shoulder blades together a little bit, hopefully to straighten up that upper body as you're leading into the stretch with your heart. Really trying to fold at the hips here. Inhale, coming out of the stretch, bringing that right leg to the outside of your left this time, tucking in the left leg like so, reaching over with your left arm just to give yourself a grounding point for this stretch. Inhale, really puff out the upper body. Exhale, reach back and allow your gaze to follow. And coming out of the stretch. And finishing off the stretches with the king of the hamstring stretches, the Paschimottanasana, our seated forward fold. So ground the hips, upper body in line with the hips. Inhale up, exhale, folding forward, leading with the heart, just allowing our hands to fall wherever they will along the legs. And if you can just try to reach and grab your toes. That's going to give you a little bit more hamstring action there. If you feel a bit too intense on the hamstrings, you can always point your toes out like this, and that's going to take a bit of the tension off. Another good tip for making your hamstrings a bit looser and getting that little bit deeper into the stretch is just making sure that your jaw is relaxed and slack. I don't know how it works, but it's just going to allow you to get that little bit deeper. Let's see if we can go for 5 more breaths. You can count on the exhale. That's breath number 3. 2 more left. 1 and 2. Coming out of the stretch. For this, you can either be in your easy posture with your legs crossed, or you can go into some variation of the lotus posture. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some alternate nostril breathing, about 12 rounds, just to really settle our energies and to wind down for the end of the practice. So you can use your right hand, index and middle finger into the palm, right thumb for the right nostril, ring finger for the left nostril. Always can start and end on the left. So right thumb on, inhale through the left, hold the breath, swap finger, and exhale out through the right. Inhale, and swap to exhale. So if you're feeling at all lightheaded, you just go straight into your Shavasana if you want to. And just making sure that your final exhale is out through the left just to complete the cycle. And if you're not doing so already, lying back on your mat into your Shavasana. Just allowing your mind to go blank. Don't need to do anything at all. You can allow your breath to go shallow, your mind to go blank, your awareness of the body to dissipate. You're just completely relaxing, allowing the benefits of the practice to wash over you, to have that final bit of rest before restarting the day. And slowly but surely turning back to the breath, turning to the space and your body. Gently reintroducing elements of movement, whether it be through the fingertips, your toes, your face, or just slowly arriving back in the body, becoming more aware of the space around you. And when you're ready, it's really up to you how you get there, but finding your way to a cross-legged position at the front of your mat. And I'd like to thank you all for making the time to come together in your rooms or kitchens, just to take the time to give yourself this practice, to give yourself this space simply to be, to practice your awareness. And just before we send it off, I'd like it if we all just came together for one round of Om. It doesn't matter whether you do it out loud or in your head. We're simply making this conscious salute towards these minds that we all have. Deep breath in. And I wish you all a wonderful day, a wonderful week. And I wish that you all stay well. Namaste.